learned. And the slide here is, I think, frankly, a little high level. And I know you want to talk in a little more detail about sort of lessons from the trenches, so to speak. So you've learned to let go of the story to some extent and let the influencer tell it and sort of enable them to do it. You talked about that. I think you also talked about sort of listening to influencer. They've got feedback for you either about the product or about the brand or about the content that they might be producing or sharing. But let's go a little deeper in terms of sort of what else you learned. Maybe also talk a little bit about your team, its makeup, and sort of how you put this together.
Yeah. With new business at Intel, so my team is responsible for tablets and smartphones, and in some areas, it's still a relatively new segment. And the other area too, in terms of Intel, doesn't have a significant necessarily market segment share. So, I like to call it gritty marketing. So how do we ensure we don't add to the noise? So there are brand members of ours that spend a lot of money on traditional media, and from my perspective, we can't compete with that. And so my philosophy is, how do we deliver value to consumers, and how do we really help break through? And what we've realized is most of our and also the third thing is that technology is very complex. So what we realize is that driving informative conversations are the most meaningful, or driving awareness around technology in areas that our consumers are passionate about is very meaningful. And so there's two parts. So there's one is leverage consumers to tell your story, and I think power middle is consumers, and they have a big following. And what I view these power middles, not only influencers but advisors, and my point of view is, let them tell your story, and sometimes these influencers are going to tell you